Good evening. I'm Dr. Melba Vasquez, President of the American Psychological Foundation, and I'm so pleased to be here with all of you today to share updates on APF's activities and new initiatives. I'm joined by Dr. Michelle Quist-Ryder, who leads APF as our CEO. Today, we'll be sharing some highlights from our 2024 Impact Report, along with what's next for APF in 2025 and beyond. 2024 was a year of purpose at APF. The Board of Trustees met to reaffirm and re-envision APF's mission, vision, and values, focusing on the powerful impact psychology has on the world. At APF, we're working towards a world where people are healthy, happy, and living with dignity. Our mission is to leverage the power of philanthropy to advance psychological knowledge by investing in innovative research and applications that prioritize people and their well-being. In service of this mission, we're guided by our values: deepening research and data, because dedication to science ensures the impact of APF funding will be felt for generations to come; breaking systemic barriers and advancing a just society, which means increasing the accessibility of psychological knowledge and funding, and identifying ways to disseminate and implement that knowledge; forward thinking, because the future of the field and the professionals who built it are key to driving progress and innovation; diversity, because we know that diverse backgrounds and lived experiences help us to better serve our grantees and the communities they work in. We're committed to building a diverse team where everyone is valued, treated with respect, and given an environment they need to thrive. Care. As an organization with a stake in the future of psychology, we lead by example and put people first. We're dedicated to implementing psychological principles throughout our work and supporting our team and partners as whole people with multidimensional lives. Accountability. Our work inherently requires a great deal of trust, and we're dedicated to ensuring that we're accountable in our practices. We're committed to transparency, ethical practices, and social responsibility in everything we do. And through it all, excellence in all we do. More details about our values are available on the APF website. 2024 was another incredible year at APF, so let's take a look at a snapshot of our impact. In 2024, we had over 2,100 applicants to our over 80 active programs, awarding over 230 recipients at over 150 universities and organizations in 40 states and 4 countries. Our more than 650 individual donors contributed to a highly successful year of fundraising. In 2024, our revenue exceeded $8.3 million, including over $250,000 of direct contributions to APF, and we distributed more than $2.14 million in direct grant expenses. But beyond the numbers, APF's true impact is hard to quantify. It's reflected in the lives of those transformed by the research and initiatives that we supported together. Many of you have benefited from APF funding. Many of you have invested in our mission with your time or treasure, or have contributed in other ways to those efforts, and we so appreciate all those contributions. APF also launched 4 new programs in 2024. The ALMA Empowering Minds Scholarship and Mentorship Program, offering financial assistance and mentorship to graduate students from historically marginalized communities. The Dr. Dolores O. Morris Fund Scholarship, which provides financial support to psychology graduate students who demonstrate a psychological research interest in trauma and otherness. The Practice-Based Evidence Fund Grant, which supports psychologists and trainees who are primarily affiliated with community mental health settings, private practice settings, or other local outpatient settings, and the Psychology of Anti-Semitism Grant, supporting applicants who design, develop, or implement programs or research projects that aim to reduce anti-Semitism or mitigate its effects. These programs join dozens of others in supporting the power of psychology to impact lives. To show just how these programs create impact, we've identified a few highlights from our 2024 recipients to show how all of APF's programs support our visionary priorities. I'll hand it over now to our CEO to share more details.
Thank you, Melba. So APF's 4 visionary priorities include areas that the APF Board of Trustees have identified as priorities for funding and other initiatives. Our priorities are to serve marginalized communities. Psychology has a responsibility to advocate for equity, safety, and mental health support for all human beings. Science has long relied on the experience of the majority to dictate standards of care and understanding of experiences, which often disregards the unique challenges faced by other communities. APF is committed to broadening the body of research and evidence-based interventions to serve all people, including specific interventions to meet identified needs of marginalized populations. Our second one is to end prejudice and stigma. APF believes that evidence-based psychological knowledge is the key to combating prejudice and stigma. Through innovative research and interventions, the Foundation is committed to educating, changing minds, and supporting communities and populations dealing with prejudice, bias, intolerance, and all forms of bigotry, including racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and misogyny. And third, preventing violence. The seeds of violence are planted long before the actual act, and the psychological impact of experiencing, witnessing, and being constantly bombarded by images and stories of violence is far-reaching. By funding innovative approaches to preventing violence, APF seeks to address and prevent its ripple effects and impact on mental health and well-being. And then finally, addressing mind-body health connections. Science has barely scratched the surface of how mental health, culture, environment, and other factors impact physical health. APF is dedicated to funding projects exploring these social and ecological determinants of health and how evidence-based psychological knowledge can improve well-being. In 2024, we received many incredibly vital applications covering these areas of study, and here are just a few. Dr. Mark Chen received an APF Visionary Grant for his project, The Roles of Emotion, Regulation, Flexibility, and Minority Stress in Mental Health Among Sexual and Gender Minority Young Adults. And this work supports APF's priority of serving marginalized communities. In support of our priority to end prejudice and stigma is understanding parenting stigma and health of LGBTQIA+ parents, an intersectional and longitudinal approach, which is a Springfield Research Fund grant from Doctors Violeta Rodriguez and Kimin Liu. Kendall Whitney Snell's Division 18 Professional Development or Service Grant, the psychological impacts of failure to protect laws on survivors of intimate partner violence, or IPV, illustrates the importance of preventing violence. And last but certainly not least, we have exploring psychosocial stressors and behavioral risk factors for non-communicable disease among LGBTQ+ Ugandans, a Wayne F. Playcheck grant from Austin Blake Bryant. More details on all of these projects and the impact of funding on our recipients can be found on our impact report. The work of the board and APF team to reaffirm our identity culminated in a project that we're thrilled to share for the first time with you here tonight, a brand new video highlighting APF and the impact you have as part of our foundation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Quist-Ryder, and I'm a social psychologist and the CEO of the American Psychological Foundation. APF's mission is to leverage the power of philanthropy to advance psychological knowledge by investing in innovative research and applications that prioritize people and their well-being. What this means in practice is that we distribute over $1 million every year to expand psychological science in the form of grants and scholarships and awards. With right around 100 programs and over 200 recipients from all across the world, we have a very broad impact, and it's increasing every year. We're building a culture of diversity both within our team and within our recipients. We value looking at people as whole, multidimensional people, and we adhere to psychological principles to build a culture of accountability and excellence. We believe at APF that psychological research can and does change the world. The problem is that psychological research often sort of dies in journals. It takes an average of 17 years for proven interventions in research to make it into clinical practice, and we don't have that kind of time. I'm thrilled to announce APF's newest initiative, Direct Action. Direct Action is a program in which we are hoping to support psychologists that want to take proven interventions and put them into clinical practice. Psychology permeates everything that we do. There is not a problem in this world that cannot be impacted, changed, and made better by psychological principles.
I'm Dr. Melba Vasquez, and I'm a psychologist, and I'm president of the APF. We have visionary grants in 4 major areas: minoritized communities, prejudice and stigma. We also fund research to prevent violence. And there's a whole body of research that continues to look at the connection between mind and body. Psychologists have only begun in the last couple of decades to care about those communities and to do research in those communities. And so our funding of those is very important to us.
I'm Tiffany Cheneville, and I'm a professor of psychology and pediatrics at the University of South Florida, and I am currently serving as an APF Franklin Springfield Congressional Fellow. My primary program of research focuses on psychosocial issues affecting youth living with or at risk for HIV and broader issues of sexual health. HIV disproportionately affects people from marginalized communities, including sexual and gender minorities and racial and ethnic minorities. So my work is really important to reaching these populations and trying to create health equity. Being the recipient of a fellowship like this also increases the visibility of my research and expertise, which will create opportunities going forward.
Hi, I'm Juno Lee. I am a doctoral candidate at University of Wisconsin-Madison in counseling psychology, and I'm a recipient of Roy Scrivener Grant. I'm trying to understand the relational trauma and its impact with parental figures among trans and non-binary people. I come from many different communities or identities that are often not seen or erased, and to receive this award felt like I'm being seen and I'm being valued for the research that I'm doing, and the research that I'm doing matters.
I'm Dr. Olivia Moorhead Slaughter. I'm a clinical associate professor. I became involved with APF at the very beginning as a donor. APF is doing phenomenal work in terms of bringing young researchers to the fore, applauding their work, elevating their work, facilitating their work because they've got a grant. I have watched that funding make a difference in terms of those young researchers being able to complete their research. It's not a lot of money for them, but it's money that makes a difference.
Successful philanthropy really reminds us of the power of individual and collective generosity to create change in society. And in the case of APF, that change translates into improved mental health and well-being of our society. So that is very inspiring.
APF funding is like a bridge that connects the philanthropies who are able to provide those fundings, who has the goodwill, and the researchers who are able to conduct those research within the community.
I invest in APF because APF is investing in the future of psychology.
There's nothing about this world that we can't save with psychology, and that's why I believe in APF. I believe in APF because I think we have the keys to not just change the world, but to save the world.
So something you heard about in that video was direct action. So what is direct action? APF defines direct action as innovative interventions based on psychological knowledge that directly address pressing needs of communities. So in practice, this means support of dissemination and implementation, bridging the gap between research and practice, and making psychological knowledge accessible. This initiative will operate as a new arm of APF, guided by our visionary priorities and working in tandem with our existing research programs. So under this new umbrella, we launched the APF Direct Action Visionary Grant for the 2025 program year. By accepting letters of intent for projects on a rolling basis throughout the year, this new program allows for a new type of flexibility in responding to rising needs and shifting priorities. At our first deadline for review, APF received more than 120 letters of intent, which clearly illustrates that this is an area in desperate need of support. So direct action is just one area where APF plans to focus in our 2025 plan of work. We've designated 2025 as the year of amplifying at APF, and that includes amplifying your impact alongside us. For 2025, we've identified 3 overarching goals for the foundation: identity, strategy, and growth. Our first goal, identity, aims to solidify APF as the go-to foundation to create impact through psychology. This will be accomplished through our new video and additional content, continued expansion of our website and our social media presence, and a comprehensive communications plan guiding all of our activities in 2025. Our second goal is strategy. We plan to continue to work intentionally to create and implement strategy throughout all of APF activities. This includes expansion of our board of trustees, welcoming 5 new members, expanding our partnerships and alliances, and seeking new avenues of funding to diversify our income streams. And finally, growth. To establish a system of sustainable growth to facilitate expansion, APF's board and team of highly skilled staff are continuously identifying improvements and charting plans for the health of our organization. 2024 was a phenomenal year for the foundation, thanks to all of you, and we're excited to see where 2025 takes us. The full 2024 Impact Report is available now on our website under Impact. But then what's next for us? On April 10th, APF's Franklin Springfield LGBTQIA+ Awareness Fund will hold a virtual town hall in partnership with APA Division 44 and Destination Tomorrow to explore how psychology can support the LGBTQIA+ community and those who serve it. The community and those who serve it through constantly evolving challenges. We also hope to see many of you in Denver at APA 2025, where we'll dance the night away at late night and host a variety of events, including the APF lectures. And so I'd like to turn it back to Melba to share a few final words.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. So before we open the floor for questions, I'd like to share our heartfelt thanks to 2 longstanding members of the APF Board of Trustees who concluded their service in 2024. Doctors Connie Chan and Aurelio Prefetera brought diverse expertise and passionate perspectives to our board, and they will be greatly missed. We wish them all the best in their next chapters. Now, we mentioned briefly that we've welcomed a few new trustees, and you'll be hearing more about them in the coming weeks. So make sure you're following APF on social media and are signed up to receive our communications. Finally, I want to thank you. I want to thank you to each and every one of the trustees, reviewers, recipients, donors, committee members, and the amazing, wonderful staff who make the work we do possible. Psychology has immense power, and your dedication and generosity allows APF to leverage that knowledge to prioritize people and their well-being. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So now we welcome any questions you may have about all the information we've shared this evening. We welcome any questions or comments.
Okay, so the question is, how is direct action going to weave into APF's existing activities? So that's a great question. As we said in the presentation, direct action is going to be a new arm. And what really happened is we looked at APF and what we've been able to accomplish in the past, I think, 72 years we've been around. And we really functioned very well creating the research arm, where we provide funding for people to, really it's a lot of pilot funding and gap funding for people to make their way into the funding cycle so that they can get larger grants and promote their research. And we got to a point where we realized we had built that program and we were ready to expand into something new. And so we're looking at what our organization is doing and where we can make the best impact next. And that's what direct action is meant to be. It's to address that step between funding and the actual application, the dissemination and implementation of psychological evidence. So it's really a new programming arm, and we're going to continue doing the research and everything that we've done there, and all of that we do to help in scholarships and fellowships and funding research. And we'll continue to do all of that. And then we'll have this new arm of implementation grants, and I expect them to be exciting and impactful. Looking at these letters of intent and the programs that we have, they're just really amazing things that people are hoping to do, and we're really excited about facilitating all of that dissemination implementation with the same excitement and fervor that we facilitate the research on the research side. So it's going to weave together in really just giving us a new avenue through which we can serve the psychological community and really the greater world.
Yeah.
Looks like we have a couple, not questions, but comments. An anonymous attendee says very excited about direct action. So thank you. We are too. And Stuart Cooper says, no question, just an expression of appreciation to the APF board and staff for all your hard work and heart dedication. Thank you so much, Stuart. We appreciate that shout out. Jana Martin says the direct action campaign is an exciting addition to the great work of APF. What are different ways that psychologists can help spread the word of the great things that you're doing? Thanks, Jana. That's a great question too. And I would say anywhere that people engage, that get their news or engage with other communities is where they can find us. They can go to our website, they can go to our socials, connect with us on Facebook or on LinkedIn or Instagram, any of those things. We also have a foundation insider that people can, it's a newsletter, an email newsletter that people can sign up, and we'll send out the information as it comes, and definitely get on our mailing list as well. And we'll get all that information out to you, but definitely send people to the website, because that's where we have all of our information there.
And we appreciate that you're interested in doing that, Jana.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah, absolutely. Please spread the word. All right. And Pat DeLeon says, can other professions apply for APF grants? That's a good question also, Pat. We do not limit our funding only to psychologists. Other professions can apply for APF grants as long as psychology is part of their question, as long as that's or part of their research, part of what they're doing, as long as psychological evidence is involved. So we don't often get other professions that receive APF funding, because usually they're working within their own profession, but it's not against our policies to do so. And sometimes we do get someone who's involved in nursing or psychiatry or something like that, that is using psychological knowledge and evidence in the research or practice that they're trying to do, and so they qualify.
You mentioned the Springfield Awareness Fund twice. Can you share a little bit more about that? You want to do that?
Sure, absolutely. So the Springfield Awareness Fund, that came from a donor, Dr. Franklin Springfield, who he left a large bequest to APF that we have been working with for the past, I think 4 years is when we started with the Springfield Fund. And the Springfield Fund gave us 2 specific funding initiatives. And one of them is the Research Fund, and for which we have a research grant, and then we have a dissertation fellowship. But then the Awareness Fund is it's really money that Springfield left to us to make people aware of LGBTQIA+ populations, because Dr. Springfield felt strongly that the best way to combat stigma and prejudice was just through education. So he said with this half of his estate that he left us, he wanted us to just make research about LGBTQ populations aware, educate the public about research about just the populations in general, to normalize LGBTQIA+ populations. And so that's really what we've been doing with the Awareness Fund. We have an advisory council for the Awareness Fund, fund and a group of researchers and experts that come together and they decide what is the best way that we can use Dr. Franklin's bequest this year to make a big impact. And so the Awareness Fund now has funded a congressional fellowship for 2 years so that we can have an expert on the Hill to advise on legislation, because that's been identified as an area that we can make a great deal of impact, as well as hosting events at the at convention, and in general just making people aware of really what challenges that population is seeking. And that's what's sponsoring the town hall on April 10th as a place that we can come together and talk about the challenges that that population is facing and just be together.
And Catherine Nordell, who is one of our board members, the vice president actually of the board, asks, given APF's commitment to marginalized communities and addressing stigma and prejudice, does APF have any plans to support grant recipients whose work may be jeopardized by recent government cuts to programs that serve such communities? We had a board meeting today, a virtual board meeting, and in fact, we discussed something, we don't have a title for it yet, but some kind of a critical response that we may provide to people who, doctoral graduate students and postdocs who may be in the middle of research or a project that's very, very important to their career, who may be cut off. And so we're trying to figure out whether we can provide some support, some financial support for people in that category. We're very, very concerned about the stress and distress that those cuts are causing across the country, but especially to our doctoral graduate students and postdocs. So yes, thank you for the question, Catherine.
And please stay tuned in that area so we can share with you as that program is developed.
Other comments, questions? Okay, well, I think if there are none, I think we can wrap it up with lots and lots of thanks to those of you who attended and joined us, and we look forward to seeing you, and do plan to stay over Saturday evening at convention in Denver so that you can come to our late night dance. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
It'll be our third one, and it's always a lot of fun. Okay, anything else, Michelle?
Carol Goodhart says, kudos to the board and staff for the great job you're all doing. Many psychologists work at the integration of mental and physical health, but the separation into silos continues. I look forward to the next generation and applicants for grants taking up the charge. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that.
Great. That's great. Okay. All right. Well, with that final wonderful comment, we will say good night, and everybody have a wonderful evening and a great weekend.
All right. Thanks, everyone.